Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks for sharing your juicy brains on a Friday. We're here with the Geospatial Professional Network celebrating our 2024 Exemplary Systems in Geospatial Awards. In February, we celebrated with Rockwall, Texas, and in March, we celebrated with Frisco, Texas. And today we are celebrating with King County, Washington, twice in one webinar because King County won 2 awards in the eSig for 2024. I'm Rachel. I'm a GPN member volunteer on the Exemplary Systems and Geospatial Awards Committee. Let's get started. As we get started, please greet each other, introduce yourselves in the chat, where you're from, who you are, and as we go along, please post questions to the Q&A button instead of the chat. It's easier for us to gather the questions. We have 2 presenters today, 2 award winners from King County. The first 20 minutes or so is going to be celebrating with Valerie and her group. King County won the Single Process System Distinguished Award for 2024. We'll have 20 minutes for that with a little bit of time for questions, and then a second presenter, Paul, celebrating the Enterprise Distinguished System. And as we get started, we want to go through a few quick slides celebrating the Geospatial Professional Network. So you can go ahead with the next slide. Upcoming webinars, we have Wednesday, May 7th, Volunteering for Resilience, the GIS Core Stories in Climate and Community Action. And then also in May, the GIS Leadership Webinar, Unlocking Secrets to Building a Successful Team. You can move ahead. Upcoming GIS Leadership Academy, Chicago in June, Advanced Leadership GIS Academy in New Orleans in November, and then again in December, GIS Leadership Academy in Savannah. And exciting news, during the last few weeks, we have a new GPN Learning Annex. All of these links will be shared throughout the presentation, but all of the webinars, past learning events can be annexed or can be accessed through the Learning Annex. So go ahead. And exciting news this fall here in Colorado, which is where I am, in Denver, Colorado in October, GIS Pro in the Rockies 2025. Coming up in early May is the deadline to submit submissions for that program. And hope you can come to Denver. So all of this information and more is located on the main homepage for the Geospatial Professional Network. Thanks, Valerie. So today we're celebrating the 2024 Excellence in GIS Single Process System, the King County Aerial Imagery Program application. And I am honored to introduce Valerie. Valerie Bright joined King County in 2023 as a senior GIS imaging engineer with a background in geospatial analysis, data management, geology, and hydrology. At King County, Valerie is focused on all things imagery, LiDAR, and raster data. She specializes in aerial imagery and raster data acquisition, data management, data access, application development, and raster analysis. Valerie enjoys building new solutions for old problems and streamlining processes, helping users solve interesting problems all around. Valerie has a master's of GIS from Penn State, a Bachelor of Science in Geology from the University of Washington, and a Bachelor of Arts in History from Michigan State University. So, welcome, Valerie, and I don't know if you have co-presenters helping you along the way right now, but please, again, post your questions in the Q&A portal, and we will have a little bit of time for Q&A at the end of Valerie's presentation, and then we'll transition towards Paul. Thanks, Valerie.
All right, thanks so much. So as mentioned, I'm Valerie Bright. I'm going to talk about the aerial imagery program and kind of the modernization process that we went through for that program. And then we'll have a break for Q&A, and I'll hand it over to Paul, Bill, and Mary to go over the King County State of GIS website. So getting into it, what to expect, we're going to go through a little bit of the aerial imagery program history, explain the old workflow and why it needed to change, and then talk about the new solution we built. And then get a little nerdy with it, and we'll do a deep dive into the back end of Experience Builder, and also talk a little bit about Microsoft Power Automate, and then wrap it all up with some unexpected benefits of going through this process. So just so everybody's on the same page, when we're talking about aerial imagery, we're talking about images that are collected from plane-mounted cameras. So this is not just snapping a picture out of the window of your plane. These are cameras that are mounted to the bottom of the plane and are taking pictures straight down at the ground. And then once all of those pictures have been collected, they're overlapped, and all of the distortion is removed. So if you're looking at like a tall building, for example, you would normally see a lot of lean. So all of that lean is removed. And then it's geo-referenced so that this imagery can be used for highly accurate GIS tasks, all kinds of measuring and mapping. So it's a lot like what you may be familiar with in satellite view in Google Maps, which is on the left. But our version is much higher resolution, what you see on the right. King County has a long history of imagery collection. We've been collecting imagery regularly every 2 years since 1998. But our imagery collection goes all the way back to 1936. And we actually have a 1936 orthomosaic of the entire county published for county use. I have to give a thank you here to EagleView, who is our imagery acquisition vendor, and to Miller Creek Associates, who provides quality control on our project. Without these two teams, our imagery program would be significantly worse off or non-existent. This imagery that we collect is vital to workflows across the county. It's used by almost all of our different county departments, everything from permitting and assessors to roads and natural resources, even the executive's office. It's also used by external agencies, and it's available to the public through many of our web applications. I don't have nearly enough time to go through all of the awesome use cases for imagery, so I wanted to focus on, I think, one of the coolest things that we get to do with our imagery. And that is that we offer it through a cost share program to local jurisdictions in the area. So imagery programs like these are pretty expensive and complex to run, require a fair amount of technical expertise and a lot of project management. So offering a cost share program is really a win-win for everyone. We at King County, we handle all of the project management and coordination between all of the different teams. And then once the imagery is delivered, we offer it to local jurisdictions at about half of the cost. So small jurisdictions get access to imagery that may not be feasible for them to do otherwise. Large jurisdictions get to save project management time and money, and the county gets to recoup some of the cost. For our 2023 imagery year, we have 32 partners. So that's 32 different cities, utilities, even airports that we have to coordinate with. And so for each of those jurisdictions, we need to let them know the imagery is available, get some kind of interest from them, figure out their area of interest, find the imagery tiles that we want to deliver to them, because if you're not familiar, imagery at this high resolution produces very large files. So the delivery for the entire county is on the order of terabytes, which is not something you really want to flood a small jurisdiction with. So we just want to give them the imagery that they need. So it's a lot easier to manage. And then of course, invoicing and actually copying and sending the imagery to them. So our previous process for this was very manual and self-admitted by the team. It was a bit of a mess of emails going back and forth between internal county employees, external jurisdictions, and sometimes communication lost between the two of those. And then also passing back and forth shape files and PDFs and spreadsheets and things in various different network folders. This image on the right here is actually an image from our archive. It's called shapefile.pdf. And someone had made a map, put it into exported it into a PDF, sent it via email. The person who received it printed it out, marked it up with pen, scanned it, and emailed it back. So you can see it's not a very efficient way of figuring out an area of interest. And it ended up being really time consuming. The estimate is that it took at least 8 to 12 hours of administrative time per order. So if you multiply that by the 32 we had last year, that's over 400 hours of admin time. And I think most importantly for us, it was really a black box for our cost share partners. They didn't know when the imagery was going to be available. And once they put in their interest, they didn't know when they were going to get it or where they were in the process. So as we were coming into the 2023 imagery year, we really wanted to rethink the whole process and see if we could streamline it. So the initial request started simply, as many GIS projects do, with a question of, can we make an interactive map where people can select the tiles they want? And again, as so many of these projects go, it got a little bit more complicated than that. But we ended up with an application that has kind of 4 primary functions. You can see the status of the imagery acquisition throughout the 2-year project cycle. There's transparency in the cost and what it costs to be part of the cost share program. We now have a platform to submit an order for very specific imagery tiles, and there's a way to see where your order is in the queue and the order status. In other words, it helped us answer our 4 most common questions of where's the imagery, when can we have it, how much is it going to cost, how do I order,
Hi, everyone. I think Valerie lost her connection, and we're gonna hold on for just one moment, please. Thanks for your patience. As you're listening to Valerie, think about the questions that you have that you'd like to ask and put them into the Q&A section of the Zoom interface, please, so that we can gather up all the questions.
all right, I think I might be back. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. We got your back, Valerie.
All right, gotta figure out how to share again.
No worries. Take a little breath, and we are so grateful that you're all sharing your work with us. We're giving you human grace and juicy brains on a Friday. So go ahead.
All right. So I think I dropped out at the beginning of the slide, or was that a little bit sooner?
We don't quite see your screen, Valerie.
Oh, no, not yet.
Mm-mm.
Nope. All right. Are we good now?
You'll have to switch the presentation. It's showing
Okay.
your speaker's slides.
Got it. Do one more time.
It's all good. You were coming out of the shapefile.
Yep.
Oh,
And
no.
there we go. Yeah, yes. The questions
One
asked.
right here. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Further ahead, actually. Yeah. That's
So
it.
here? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect.
All right, back on track. Thanks for the patience, guys.
Thank you.
So in other words, we were able to answer kind of the four most common questions that we got about our program, which is where's the imagery and when can we have it? How much is it going to cost? How do I order? And what's going on with my order? And all of this ended up culminating in the launch of a new ArcGIS Experience Builder application in May 2024. We chose Experience Builder because it is a no-code solution. So the idea was that that would give us a shorter amount of development time, reduce the number of barriers to actually getting the application launched, and reduce the overall maintenance time over a completely custom built application. And if you want to follow along, we will drop a link in the chat to the application, and I would like to do a little walkthrough. So when you load the page, this is our landing page for our aerial imagery program. There is a balance between a minimal amount of text and enough information, because we know that people don't really like to read big blocks of text. So we have a bit of information about the imagery program, that we offer it as a cost share. And then there's an interactive map here where you can see at a glance where we are in the acquisition process for which year of imagery. So just a month or two ago, I swapped this over from the 2023 collection to the 2025 collection. So you can see that we've got 2 blocks of flights that are already done, 2 blocks that are in progress. And if you click on any of these blocks, you can get a little bit more detailed status. And zoom in and see what the imagery looks like also. Once the imagery is ready, so once we've acquired the 2025 imagery and we're ready to share it out, the text up here will change and we'll have a link to our order imagery page. This is where jurisdictions can come in and see a very transparent view of what it costs to be a part of the program. So you can come and choose your jurisdiction from a drop-down list, and the map automatically pans and zooms and filters. And you can see at a glance how much it's going to cost to be part of the program. If you're really curious and want to dive in, we also have a calculation map where you get a little bit more detailed view of exactly how we came up with that price. And then when you're ready to order, either the imagery order form button here or the same button here takes you to an embedded survey 123. This survey is very short. It walks you through just some simple questions about what imagery year you're ordering, and then walks you through the map tools on how to select the tiles you're looking for, and then how to adjust your selection if you need to add or remove tiles. I missed this one. So let's see if we can, there we go, get that in. And then this tile list on the side populates, and you can come in and export that to a CSV. I would love a way for a selection on a map to automatically be able to be pushed to a survey. Unfortunately, last time I checked, that wasn't yet a function. So the CSV is a little bit of a workaround, but it seems to be working. So you can drop the CSV directly into the survey, and then we collect a little bit of information about who you are, your name and email, and if you've got any extra comments for us. Then once you hit submit, 2 separate things happen. A Power Automate flow is kicked off on the back end, and then also you get a link to the order status table. So switching over to the third page, at the bottom of this page, you'll see after a couple of seconds, your jurisdiction's name will pop up with the order status of order submitted. And then throughout the process of handling the cost share, the order status is changed. So going back to the slides, at this point, I want to get a little bit technical and dive into the back end of Experience Builder and some of the kind of lessons learned throughout the process. So if you're not familiar with Experience Builder or you haven't done a whole lot with it, it's really powerful. It is a way to tie many different GIS features and website features and text kind of all into one application. So this app is one Experience Builder web experience with 3 pages in it. And in those 3 pages, there are 3 different web maps, the Survey 123 form, and 7 different hosted feature layers and views. We'll start with the simple stuff first. So the home page is just header, text, interactive web map, and legend. And if you're using Experience Builder for simple applications like this, it is very quick to build. Esri has really done a lot of work to make templates that are very simple to drop your content into and get a nice looking app without a lot of effort. And then the other simple part of this is the order status page. This again is just header, text, and an embedded table. One cool thing that this does is our order form has name and email address in it, which is not something I really wanted to share publicly. I wanted to keep our customers' information private. So in order to do that, I took the results form that comes kind of pre-generated from Survey 123, and I made a hosted feature layer view from that. So that view allows me to filter the columns to just a handful of columns that I want to see. And it also let me add an attribute where I could filter out spam, test, or mistake orders, which is something I figured out I needed to do about a month after this app was released. And then I also get the option for additional filters to help keep this table clean from year to year. Since this is a living application, when I'm ready for 2025 imagery, I will go ahead and hide all of the 2023 orders so that folks can see just the current status and not have to scroll through a giant table. All right, so the bulk of the complexity in this application is in the order imagery page. And there's really 3 widgets that made this part of the app possible. There is a filter where you can select your jurisdiction, and it was a little bit fast, but it did a whole lot at once. It panned and zoomed the web map, and then also filtered all of the jurisdiction boundaries just down to the one jurisdiction we're interested in. And it did that on multiple maps at a time. This is possible because halfway through the development of this app, Esri released the group filter functionality, where you can now have one filter that affects multiple layers at once, as long as there's a consistent attribute in all of those layers. Previously, I had something like 6 or 7 different filters stacked on top of each other, and the user had to go through and select their jurisdiction in each one, and that really wasn't tenable. There are also sections in here and nested sections, which we'll get into in a minute. And then the views navigation widget that lets you switch between sections and helps minimize the places that your users can get stuck as you start to add complexity into your app. So let's talk a little bit about how this chunk of the Experience Builder was constructed. So we have 2 columns side by side. The right column just has the table of selected tiles in it, and then the left column is a little bit more complicated. It has a section nested in it, and also the views navigation widget. But it's not just one section, it's two sections stacked on top of each other. So you can think about this like turning on and off GIS layers in a web map or in a map, except instead of turning on and off layers to see different types of data, you're turning on and off website components and swapping between those. And then it gets a little bit more complicated still in that there is now another section that is nested within each of those two sections. So this big section that has the map has this nested section that has the jurisdiction filter and a link to the imagery order form. When you click on this imagery order form link, all it does is swap the views so that now you're seeing the imagery order form that was underneath is now on top. And the other map also has nested sections in it, but it was getting a little complicated to show on one slide, so I simplified it. And then my final pro tip for working in Experience Builder on the back end is to label everything. You will save a lot of sanity along the way. So what we're seeing now is an example of the Experience Builder editor with just some default widgets thrown in. And you can see that Imagery helpfully gives a unique name to each thing, but button 61 doesn't really mean a lot. And if you're trying to link to different buttons, trying to remember what button 61 versus button 62 is very challenging. So what I did instead is got a little bit obsessive with it and labeled every single piece of my application. So I like to use what widget I'm using first, and then an explanation of what that is, so that when I'm trying to choose from a map and saying, you know, when I filter this widget, I want to pan and zoom on, well, map 15 doesn't really help, but map imagery order tells me exactly which map I'm affecting. And this just, it made everything a lot easier. And as somebody who has had to come back and now update this app almost a year after I built it, I am very thankful for my past self for having gone through this process. So I want to switch tracks just a little bit and talk about Microsoft Power Automate. If you're not familiar, Power Automate is it's built into the Microsoft suite, and it is no-code automation for repetitive processes. We chose Power Automate because we needed a way to get an automatic alert when a new survey was submitted. Otherwise, we were finding that orders were coming in, and unless we remembered to go check the website and see that there was a new order, they were getting missed. We also wanted one email thread to be able to manage an order from start to finish, and then one location for all of those CSVs of requested tiles. So walking through the flow, it's overall fairly simple. It uses the Survey 123 connector for Power Automate. And it's triggered whenever a survey is submitted. So you can see that it's connected to my ArcGIS Online account and then pointing directly at my order form survey. So anytime a survey is submitted, this flow runs. It's set up to send an email. You can see on the left, there's the Power Automate kind of backend, and all of these green text boxes are dynamic text that are being pulled directly from the attributes on the survey. So we get contact name and email. And then on the right is an example of the email that's generated in Outlook. So it gives our team a ton of information at their fingertips. And then finally, using the ArcGIS connector, which is a premium connector and requires a little bit more work on the licensing end, we're able to connect to the survey, get that CSV from the URL, and then plug that into SharePoint and get it dynamically named based off of attributes from the survey and copied into one SharePoint folder. One bit of troubleshooting we had to do is that it turns out the ArcGIS connector times out if you don't use it all the time. And this flow needs to run every couple of weeks. So the solution was a really simple dummy flow. This is a secondary flow that runs alongside the main one. And all it does is it runs once a week automatically on a schedule, and it pings the order form and says, "Hey, do you still exist?" And the order form says, "I'm still here." And then that's enough to keep the connection alive. So if you're having trouble with timeouts, check out the dummy flow. And so some final thoughts on this. What started as a simple map request ended up giving us some unexpected benefits of the chance to really holistically review the entire workflow, from alerting our customers to delivering imagery. What used to take 8 to 12 hours of admin time now takes less than an hour per order. It gives us a persistent record of orders, and it's also significantly increased our transparency into the program. And I think made everybody feel a little bit more at ease being part of the cost share program with us. The customer feedback has been incredibly positive. And I think most importantly for me as a developer, I haven't had anyone email me and not understand how to put in an order, which I feel very proud of. So I'm really excited to see how this app and this program continue to grow over the next couple of years, over our next imagery delivery and beyond. And finally, a thank you to the project team, specifically to Tamara Davis, whose idea spurred this whole development process and who really let me kind of run wild with it and get a chance to kind of rethink this older process and modernize it. And of course, thank you to all of the reviewers and the folks who helped me with process improvement along the way. And at that point, I think we can take some questions.
Hello, yes, I'm here. Valerie, without words, this is so amazing. It's so amazing. You can see why the ESIG Awards Committee has an amazing job reviewing these amazing applications. This is mind-blowing. The questions I see in the Q&A, I'm going to start with Matt Slater's more technical question. He says, if you need to use programming language during a project in Experience Builder, do you prefer Python, Java, HTML, or C++, or does it depend on the scenario?
That's a great question. I'm not actually a coder. So I do my application development in off-the-shelf solutions like this, so I don't have to dive into code.
That's a very holistic answer. Matt also was asking about opportunities to shadow at King County's program. I think that maybe Valerie, you and Matt could coordinate offline if
Yeah, absolutely.
if you can share your email, or his email is in the Q&A there.
Okay.
Yeah. Someone else asked about elaborating more on the Power Automate function. I think at the time they asked that, you were just about to go into more slides and more detail.
Yep.
And so I don't know that we have time right now to do that, but I don't see any further questions. We're going to share all the contact information, and if there are further questions that
There
come
was
up.
one quick question in the chat about how often we're completing updates.
Oh, yeah.
So we do imagery collection every 2 years. So we're in the middle of the 2025 project now. 2023 was a little bit late. So our application development was mid last year. And so we do ongoing maintenance to the application just to keep the text up to date and current with what's going on with the program. But the bulk of the updates to any of the data layers or the survey or application like that happens every 2 years.
Excellent. Thank you, Valerie. You've earned a long weekend.
Thank you.
You did great. Thanks. The technical issues were no problem. We all have grace in this technical world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so moving ahead, time is of the essence. We have 2 for 1 here. We're excited. I'd like to introduce Paul, and the second part is the presentation of the 2024 eSIGA winner, the King County State of GIS. Paul will be joined by Mary and Bill. And this was the Enterprise Distinguished System winner for the 2024 eSIG. So Paul McCombs is a principal IT engineer for King County GIS Center with 30 years of experience. Paul provides GIS expertise and leadership for the King County Permitting Division, Regional Planning Office, GIS Technical Advisory Committee, and best practices for GIS editing. He is the data steward for dozens, I'm sure more than that, dozens of GIS layers in the King County Spatial Data Warehouse, and he actively supports open data initiatives at King County. He's a founding member of the Puget Sound QGIS user group and co-organizer of OpenStreetMap Seattle. Paul is currently expanding his project leadership skills through Scrum and Agile practices with multiple teams to develop products and documentation for GIS. Thanks, Paul. We're grateful to you on a Friday.
All right, thanks for that introduction. And I would also like to say thanks to Valerie for that great presentation that she gave. I am going to talk to you guys for a little bit about the state of GIS, which is it's an enterprise system that we use in King County GIS community to communicate with and about GIS in amongst ourselves and to the public. Go ahead and advance the slide. I'm going to start with some background. With about 20 county agencies using GIS data applications, administering the GIS system requires a lot of communication and coordination by King County GIS Center. For many years, the annual King County GIS operations and maintenance plan, which you can see a photo of in the slide, was a paper report that was the primary method of documenting GIS scope and participation across King County agencies. It was very labor intensive to produce. It was very cumbersome. And the worst of all, it was extremely boring to read and to write. So what we needed to find a solution, a better solution. So after determining the need to replace the O&M plan, King County GIS convened a brainstorming session with 7 GIS professionals. Those 7 professionals came up with a list of 17 desired features and dozens of suggested implementation details, and spent about 4 months in continued meetings without making enough progress, that didn't seem any hope that we were going to succeed. So we needed something to change, and that something that we decided to change was our approach. And we decided to use a tool that the King County IT department had moved to adopt, called the Agile Software Development Framework, which is sometimes described by its practitioners as the ability to create and respond to change. Specifically, we began to use the Scrum Agile framework to create state of GIS. And if you don't know about the Scrum framework, it's not an acronym. It's taken from the actual sport of rugby, wherein Scrum is the team members coming together in a group to move the ball forward. And that is exactly what we were trying to do with our team. We would come together and move the state of GIS project forward. And we took advantage of several tools from the Scrum framework. The laundry list of desired features and implementation details was formed into a backlog, a list of discrete tasks, each designed for one team member to accomplish in one sprint. The product owner represents the interests of the customer, and in this case, that customer was the GIS steering committee. And the product owner decides which tasks from the backlog are the highest priority at the start of each sprint. And this allows us to accommodate changes in priorities and manage expectations as we proceed through the project. The sprint, for State of GIS, we have 2-week sprints, and there's a team of around 12 people that work on State of GIS. And note that I say we work on it, we're not complete. It is like a continuous improvement cycle. And no one on the team devotes all of their time to State of GIS. We all have other more production-oriented tasks that we have to complete. And so in a given sprint, there's going to be a different selection of team members that participates. And before each 2-week sprint begins, we have a meeting where the team members agree to specific tasks that they can complete by the end of the sprint. And this clear communication of expectations between the product owner and the team members at this 2-week frequency was and is the key to continuing to make progress on State of GIS. There's a role of Scrum leader, which the Scrum leader works with the product owner to maintain the backlog and ensure that everybody understands the priorities. They run brief, frequent Scrum meetings during the sprint with the team to ensure that tasks are on track and to identify any blocking problems, which the Scrum leader then facilitates whatever is required to remove those blocking issues. So once we formed our Scrum team, in the first sprint, among the tasks that we were completing was selecting the platform. And King County GIS evaluated a few site management platforms already available to county agencies. We did not consider any platforms that would require a new cost. And so we considered Microsoft SharePoint, but we rejected that option because it didn't provide access control for individual pages or page elements. And we considered the King County's current web content management system, Sitecore. But Sitecore, at the time that we were making this decision, was in the midst of a very lengthy and difficult migration process. And as part of that process, they were requesting that we reduce the number of pages that each agency had in the web content management system. And of course, we were contemplating making many, many pages. So that option was rejected as well. What we ended up choosing was the Esri ArcGIS Hub platform. And it was a natural choice for us in the GIS, King County GIS community, because of our heavy usage of ArcGIS Online and just Esri tools in general. With the ArcGIS Hub, we could include all of our existing maps, applications, dashboards, and galleries that were published on ArcGIS Online. And we had many team members with skills to help produce any more resources as needed. The other big thing about the ArcGIS Hub platform was that it provided easy administration of detailed role-based access privileges that allowed us to restrict certain resources to specific groups of employees and allow other resources to be viewable to anyone, including the public. And I'm going to turn over this presentation to Bill Keller, who is a significant contributor to this project.
Okay, thanks, Paul. So now that we've kind of established the need for the State of GIS site, If I end up calling it SOGIS, that's what we call it internally, State of GIS. So we've come up with the need for this site. Now it's time to kind of start laying out the site. And if you want to follow along, it looks like someone put the link there in the chat. It's state-of-gis.kingcounty.gov. So we had two primary goals for this website. The first and most important was to replace that O&M, or operations and maintenance plan. So that plan included things like a budget, work plans for the various departments and agencies, the initiatives of what we're working on as GIS Center. And we wanted to be as transparent as possible, both with our stakeholders and public, about what's going on. A secondary goal here is we also saw the opportunity to really centralize our GIS resources at King County into a one-stop shop. So we have the King County GIS Center has been around in various forms for at least a couple decades at this point. And we have a lot of resources available to people, a lot of data available to people, but it was never really gathered in one centralized spot. So we decided to take the opportunity with State of GIS site to centralize those and create that one location for it. And we have those GIS resources for our users. We have the data directory and, of course, FAQs. And we'll get into each of these a little bit more later. But for right now, let's get into the primary goals for the website. So first and foremost was time savings. Paul mentioned earlier that this is a very arduous process to create these sites. Just from our leadership alone, it was costing dozens of hours a year to make these 100 to 200 page documents that hopefully people actually read. And as Paul said, it's not enthralling material to go through budgets and these operation and maintenance plans. But whenever we make it more in this interactive form, we get a whole lot more engagement, and people are a lot more invested in the things that are going on at the King County GIS Center. A big part of that O&M plan is the budget. So one of the things we did pretty early on is we created a budget dashboard that we get monthly updates from our finance department, and each of our agencies or departments that uses GIS here at King County can go in and view their own or any of the other departments' budgets and see how much money they have left, what their budget burn down is looking like, and get an overall picture of what their budget situation looks like for GIS at King County. All right. Next up is the initiatives. So this is a public-facing dashboard, and these are highlighting our priority initiatives that we're working on at King County. Many of these do have budgets tied to them from that budget dashboard, but we want to be fully transparent on where we're at in our progress for these priorities. And then again, this is a thing that's open to the public so that anyone can come and see this. Go ahead, next one. And then we also have our work plans. Work plans are created by each of the agencies or departments to show what they're up to as far as GIS goes and what their plans are, what their projects are for GIS within those departments. And then the last thing that we really wanted to have as a big driver for the State of GIS website is with the impending doom or demise of ArcMap, we want to make sure that our users across these different agencies are moving to other platforms, be that ArcGIS Pro or ArcGIS Online, and making sure they're getting off of ArcMap. So we do that by actually going through and getting information from our licensing servers and from logins from ArcGIS Pro and ArcGIS Online that gives us usage statistics in 15-minute chunks so that we can use that information and combine it and show what each department is, what platforms each department are using to do their GIS work. So this is a public view. You can actually go and see this with the URL that's provided there. In general, if you're looking at kind of that bar chart on the bottom, the column chart, you can see that the darker blue bars are going up, which those are our ArcGIS Pro usage, and the kind of tan bars are going down, which is the ArcMap usage. So that's really good to see. It helps us a lot to check on how all the departments are doing, who needs the most attention. And we can actually go one level beyond this. We can look at individual level of who is the person that's using ArcMap to go and make sure we contact those people and find them workflows with ArcGIS Pro or WebGIS that works for them. Okay. All right, so some of the secondary goals that we have for this site. So we have a lot of popular apps that, again, if you don't know exactly where to go find these things, they're hard to find. So we made a little popular app section on the State of GIS page. Same deal with data. We have a bunch of different enterprise databases and open data portals and ArcGIS Online organizations. We have a couple. So we wanted one central location where someone could go and get pointed to the right direction to find the data they needed. Of course, we have standards and best practices that we're also putting on the SOGIS site so that our users can have those as reference. Content review is a big one. I'll actually talk about that on the next slide. New user info is also a really big one. So Mary and I are actually administrators for the WebGIS here at King County, and we have new users almost daily. I think we have something like 1,300 active GIS users at King County. So you can imagine folks are coming and going quite often. So having a resource where people can find the information they need as a new user has been super helpful. We have an event calendar that shows things like our coaching groups that you can find on the State of GIS page. We have coaching group meetings every week. We alternate between ArcGIS Pro and WebGIS coaching. And then we have, I think, a quarterly WebGIS group that also meets. And that one's open to people from outside the county also. Then we have our training homepage. Training is one of the areas that we're seeing a lot of growth in right now, especially with the move to ArcGIS Pro. We want to make sure that people have access to the information they need. And Mary will talk a little bit more about that later. And then every good website has a FAQ. So of course we have a FAQ page. All right, so I promised I would talk more about this content review. So any content, be that data or an application or a web map, anything that people want to have public, published from King County's ArcGIS Online has to go through a content review. This is a self-service application where people go through and they open a survey that walks them through everything that's required for it to be acceptable to release to the public. Typically that includes metadata and like item descriptions and branding. So they fill out all this information, and then once the survey is submitted, it gets forwarded on in a very similar process to what Valerie talked about earlier through Power Automate. It gets forwarded on to the administrators, and then we have a little dashboard that we use to go through and make sure people's content meets those guidelines. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is fairly early on in the process of creating the State of GIS webpage, we had a compliance and accessibility review by our design and civic engagement team here at King County. And this was just extremely valuable. The biggest thing they did whenever they did the review, and to be clear, they only reviewed the homepage, but by doing that, they really established the look and feel for the entire hub site. That includes things like what colors we use to make sure that we're matching the kingcounty.gov website, what typeface. They gave us access to the icons and button stylings, again, to be coherent with kingcounty.gov. And they helped us create a new nav bar for the hub page. If you've used Esri's hub before, you know that the nav bar up top can be a little bit limiting. So creating this custom nav bar with them was really helpful in creating a nice looking tool that also looked like the kingcounty.gov site. And lastly, but certainly not least important, is they helped us ensure that we are meeting accessibility requirements. This goes for the translatability, it passed colorblind tests and screen reader tests, and just as a general good to know, especially as accessibility becomes more important, ArcGIS hubs do meet WCAG 2.2 AA standards. WCAG is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And this, you're probably going to hear this more and more as we move forward into the future, just in general about accessibility compliance. So I did want to make a specific call out for that. So that's all for me. I'm going to hand it off to Mary to talk about some lessons learned.
Well, thanks, Bill. I'm going to turn off my video because the internet doesn't like me today, and I want to make sure you guys can hear me and not have the presentation freeze. So these are the lessons that we learned when completing or working with our State of GIS site. The first thing is that we are working with a large team that has different time demands on their time and knowledge of ArcGIS, especially ArcGIS hub sites. So this has meant that there has been some delays in getting some work completed, like the work plans. So there are several work plans on the site that represent what folks are doing. Each department is doing GIS, and there's been some delay in getting that done. Also, have this big team that are working on pages individually. There has been different look and feel to the pages, and occasionally there is duplicated content between those pages. Esri has their hub site as a configurable app, which means that you should be able to update things. It can be a little intimidating, but once people get used to it, they can get going with it. The other thing to note is that you can get into the HTML coding on the hub site, and that has also resulted in a little bit different look and feel for the pages. Next slide. Another thing that we learned is that the members of our team, most of them have been doing development, and a couple of team members have been showing off our site as it's been under development. And we needed to make sure that the access was correctly done between those team members. So for example, when you're developing a page, you can actually hide sections of it from the people that are showing it off. And if you don't have those permissions set correctly, they'll be showing off the page and it will look funny because they'll see some draft content. And that was causing a little bit of concern. So that is something that you'll need to be aware of when you're developing these sites. Next slide. Another thing that we were working with is ArcGIS dashboards. Turns out that they weren't exactly working exactly the way we wanted to when we were showing off those dashboards. So in both cases, we dropped them into Experience Builder so that there could be some more tools to interact with them. In the case of the budget dashboard, that is a ArcGIS dashboard that has been dropped into Experience Builder, and there is some Python code that has been written to gather all the budget information into a table that can then be consumed by the dashboard. For our GIS initiatives dashboard, it looks like a dashboard application, but it's not. All of it is built in Experience Builder, and then there is some fancy footwork going on in the background to make it work and behave the way that we want it to. So next slide. So areas of growth, we are currently working on our training page. Here is where users who are part of the King County GIS system can come and learn what training may be appropriate for them. So we start with personas that identify the type of user they might be and then suggest training to them. Next slide. The other thing that we have been working on is we have customized our ArcGIS Pro interface to allow people to find King County content really easily without having to try to figure out making connections and all these other things. We're just going to give them what they need, and it's really great. But we needed to teach people how to access that data. So we have set up an entire section of our SOGIS site to teach people how to get access to the things they may need in their pro session. And then finally, we're using Google Analytics to streamline our site. So we're going to look for opportunities to make sure that our pages all look the same, that the pages are cross-linked appropriately, maybe re-examining how we have deployed our frequently asked questions, and also looking at highlighting the work that the departments do. Next slide. On to you, Paul.
Thanks, Mary. I'd just like to thank everybody that has participated in the process of creating the State of GIS hub site, including the King County GIS Center leadership and the State of GIS team. I think the State of GIS can be added to the collection of things that it takes a village to make happen. In this case, almost literally. And I'd just like to say too that we're continued to make development of add new features, improve existing features, and we expect that to carry on for a long time. I know we're running a few minutes late. Do you want me to speak to questions right away?
I think we can do a couple more minutes here. Some people have already dropped off. There were a couple that you answered, Paul. Thank you for that. Do you want to read them out loud?
Yeah, there was a question about who the GIS steering committee is composed of, and it's a pretty eclectic collection of people. Generally, they are GIS users or the managers of GIS users that represent each of the agencies that participate in King County GIS. And some of them are experts and some of them aren't. There's a couple more questions, and I was going to type an answer, but I think I'll just answer them really quickly. We have a custom application that was produced by the GIS Center that we use to track ArcMap and ArcPro use over time. And that application is integrated into State of GIS, and it just accesses the license services for those products. As far as getting buy-in from stakeholders to share budget and initiative information, that information I don't believe is accessible to the public. That's one of the reasons we needed that granular access control that Esri Hub allowed us to have. I will say that budget feature is one of the most popular features, and we actually kind of inspired other King County IT groups to produce a similar transparent source of information for their budgets. And I see there's a question: where did you deploy data and applications on-prem or cloud? That is like super complicated, and I am not an expert on that, but like the application that I mentioned before that tracks the licensing is actually deployed on the Azure government cloud. Other people in this meeting probably know more about that than I do.
Yeah, question answer for another time. Valerie posted a really helpful thing in the chat. If you're interested in more about our GIS usage dashboard, you'll be sharing that presentation at the Washington GIS Association conference in June. Excellent. Paul and Mary and Bill and Valerie and Tamara, I know you're here in the background. Thank you. Doesn't express enough gratitude for the inspiration and the curiosity, and you being such leaders in such an experienced organization, sharing your work so generously. Thank you doesn't do it justice. And on a Friday, I think we're all feeling inspired and curious. So as you go into your weekend, think about this presentation, maybe take time to watch some of the earlier eSig award presentations. And we posted a link to the eSig awards page for the 2025 applications. They'll be due Monday, June 2nd, and there's a ton of resources on our page. And I think this wraps it up. Want to be respectful of your time. Have a great weekend, and thank you for joining this eSig Awards webinar, and congratulations to King County. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.